You've probably been thinking about this for a while and longer than you'd like to admit. The house is too small, and it's not in theory, it's in your day-to-day life. Somebody is in a room they've outgrown. The kitchen isn't working the way you and your family use it anymore. You find yourself mentally rearranging floor plans or walls, knowing that they can't actually change in that home. And every time you sit down to make the move happen, you start running the numbers in your head, imagining the search, thinking about what you'd list your house for. And then your brain hits the same wall. What if we sell and we can't find anything in time? What if there's a gap? What if we're sitting in between two homes with nowhere to go? Now that fear right there, that is the one thing keeping more Ontario families in homes that they've outgrown more than anything the market itself is doing. Today, this video is about that fear specifically, what it actually is, and more importantly, what it actually costs and what it costs you when you let it be the one making the decisions. I'm Varsha Pasel, real estate agent with Royal LePage, Royal City, right here in Guelph in the Greater Toronto area, and I work with move-up families a lot. And in the last 6 to 12 months, there's been a shift in how these conversations go. And I think it's actually worth naming out loud and talking about here. So let's do exactly that. Because many people keep saying, move up buyers, here's your window. Let's talk about the context of what's happening in this market because everything is anchored in actual data. Okay, Royal LePage put out their Q1 2026 house price survey back in April, and it covers the full Canadian market at large. And there was one line, and it actually stuck out to me. It's an important distinction. The CEO, Phil Soper, said, I'm quoting directly, move-up buyers are taking a more measured approach, often choosing to sell before committing to their next purchase, a behavior we haven't seen in years. Sell first, then buy. For most of the last decade in Ontario, that truly was not how move-up buyers operated. The market really moved too swiftly for that to happen. You competed on your purchase. You made it unconditional. Most of the time your offers were unconditional, and then you listed your house right after, and sometimes it all happened in the same week. People were buying before they'd sold because that was the only way to get a home. I'm talking the last decade. That's deep conditioning, okay? That environment is gone. The GTA aggregate home price dropped 4.7% year over year in Q1 of 2026, landing just under 1.1 million. The GTA detached segment actually dropped 4.5% to 1.382 million. Sellers today are negotiable, inventory is higher, and buyers have the time to think. So move-up buyers are also being equally as careful. And careful in this market means selling your home, knowing your number, and then go out shopping. But that creates the exact situation that you're scared of. Because selling before you commit to your next purchase, if that's the new normal, what exactly happens in that 30 to 60, 90-day window? What if you don't find a place? Before you go there, I'm going to offer you something that could reframe this thought process, so stay with me. It's not the market, it's not the rates, and it's not whether prices are going up or coming down. The fear is being caught without a home to go to. It's being caught without a home. You sell your house, the closing date is coming up, and you haven't found the next one yet. Where are you? Where are you? That scenario feels enormous when you're imagining that, especially if you're imagining this in the middle of your night while you're scrolling properties, and on paper, you know, in real life it's one thing, but on paper it looks completely different, which is why I want to offer you this. What does being in that in-between actually look like in real life? So let's say you accept an offer and it goes firm, meaning there's no more conditions left to fulfill and you have a 90-day closing. So you have 90 days to go and find your next home and you get to line up those closings. And most of the time you find something in that window. I can tell you from actually shopping with clients in that kind of scenario, we have found a home every single time. Every single time. Then comes the closing dates. For the most part, you negotiate overlapping dates, or you consider maybe even a short-term rental, or maybe you have lovely family to lean on and that's close that you can stay with if the sale is complete before your purchase is ready. But let's say the timing doesn't work out perfectly. What do you do then? You've bought before your sale closes, and that's where bridge financing comes in. So bridge financing is a short-term loan that covers the gap between closing on your new home and receiving the money, the funds from your current home sale. It literally bridges the two. Most major lenders in Canada offer it. You need to have a firm offer on your existing home, meaning the deal is done. There are no conditions outstanding, nothing else needs to be fulfilled. You can bridge across a timing gap that you can see. Banks cannot bridge into uncertainty, and that's why you need a firm sale. The cost right now in Ontario, roughly prime plus 2 or 3%. So say prime is 4.45%. You're looking somewhere between 6.4 to 7.4% annually on the bridge loan amount. But bridge loans are short. I mean, sometimes they're 30 days, 60 days. And that's going for clients who are actually doing renovations to the property. I've seen a lot of clients just do a couple of days, maybe up to 2 weeks to just give them some breathing room. Say your home sells for $900,000 and you need to bridge $850,000. Say it's for a 60-day period. At 7%, that bridge loan costs you roughly $9,800. And I know I went with the extreme example of 60 days. A lot of folks do it for much shorter. I'm going with, is there a potential renovation happening? Because that's who I dealt with most recently. Is this nothing, $9,800? Of course not. Is it catastrophic where your brain thinks it's falling off a cliff and you're building all these scenarios in the dark? No, it's doable. And that's because you're a move-up buyer and there's equity present in your home. If you're sitting with this and you want to know what your specific numbers look like, what you'd net, from the sale of your home, what a bridge would cost you in your situation, what you could carry on to your next purchase, that's exactly the kind of conversations I have with move-up families on a weekly basis, and I'd love to hear from you. There's a link in my description to schedule a no-pressure conversation. I want you to consider one more number just in case that $9,800 doesn't feel good to you, okay? Most move-up buyers are so focused on what they're leaving, what they'll net from their current sale, whether it's enough, that they forget to look at what they're moving into. You are also a buyer right now, and you're buying in this market where the GTA homes have dropped 4.5% year over year, where sellers are negotiating, where conditional offers are getting accepted again, over and over again, where you actually have time to look at a home before committing to it. Again, you could do that multiple times there as well. So the way I see it, the price you're getting on your current home is lower than the 2022 peak, but we're not stuck there, right? It's true. But that price that you're paying for your next one, that's lower too. And this is the advantage that move-up buyers specifically have in this corrected market that first-time buyers don't. So say you bought your home in 2018 for $650,000 and today it's worth $900,000. Maybe at the peak in 2022, it could have been worth 1.1. Yes, you've lost some paper gains on the high end, but you still have $250,000 in appreciation plus 7 years of equity from mortgage payments. The detached home that perhaps you're looking at is $1.35 million. At the peak in 2022, maybe it was a $1.7 million home. It's a true reality. That higher end segment has corrected harder than most other segments, okay? That gap between what you're selling and what you're buying is actually narrower than it was at the peak. You're not buying high, you're trading up. And you're using your equity that you've built. And what continues to surprise me when I run this with families, the numbers, and I have these conversations in this market, is if you wait for prices to recover, and they will, you'll sell your current home for more, and you'll pay more for the next one. The gap you'd be navigating in 2 to 3 years may actually be larger than the one you'd work with right now. In case nobody has told you yet, which I highly doubt. But here it is anyway. So practically, if you decide to move, what does the actual sequence look like? The fear usually lives in the unknown. So once you see the process laid out as a process, it becomes something you can actually navigate and start to visualize. So let's walk through it. Step 1, get your number first, okay? Before you list anything, get a current market valuation of your home. Your actual net proceeds after commission, after mortgage payout, after legal fees and closing costs. You need to know what you're working with. Before anything else moves, numbers come first. Step 2, then you're going to talk to your mortgage broker, not just your bank. You need to know what you can carry on to the next purchase and what your stress test qualifications look like, and whether bridge financing is even available to you, and what is the cost for your specific situation. This step often comes up more than people expect, so get ahead of it. Step 3, list your home with intent. Price it correctly from day one. In this market, overpricing is not a negotiation strategy. It's a carrying cost, and you're choosing to pay it in time and stress and eventual reductions. A well-priced home moves, and a moved home gives you a firm date and a firm number and a firm starting point for your search to then begin. Step 4, search with that number in hand, because you're not browsing anymore, okay? You know what you can spend, and how validating is that? You know roughly when you need to be in. The search becomes much more focused, much more streamlined, and honestly, that feels better than being open-minded in this market with a plethora of inventory. And step 5, negotiate and make it work on your side, okay? Buyers, this is your market. Sellers are highly negotiable. There is room to negotiate. So use that leverage, the big L word. Now, the gap, if there is one, has already been worked out in step 2. So it's not going to come as a surprise to you, because it's all in the preparation, and it's a decision that you've made with information at hand. And that's the difference between a move that feels overwhelming and one that feels like something you chose. Take control of it. Some homes are like a window. It faces the wrong direction, perhaps, and lights can still come in. The structure is solid. It works. It just doesn't open onto what your life needs to look at next. You've known for a while that home is your window, okay? And the fear of that gap, the days or weeks in between, that's real. I'm not dismissing it, but I've watched families stay in homes they've outgrown for a year, sometimes 2, because the discomfort of moving feels bigger than the discomfort of staying. And when they finally get to the other side, they finally do it, when they're in the home that actually feels and fits like who their family has become, they more often than not say the same thing. We should have done this sooner. Your environment shapes who you're becoming. That's true for you, and it's true for your children. What does another year in the wrong house cost? That's the question I'd sit with. And if you're curious about Halton numbers, Guelph numbers, and actually I had one of you ask for Woodstock, that's coming up next. I'll see you in that video.